Podcats, I'm Emma Black, and I'm here running the show by myself today. So let's get started. And welcome to the 9th episode of Locker Talk. For our first-time listeners, I want to inform you that our podcast is a fun-filled voice-over audio conversation. Our focus is to learn something about an individual. Do you have a special talent or a cool pet or what? That individual could be you. If you're interested in being in our podcast, we would love to see and get to know you. Please contact agroff@k12albemarle.org if you're interested. Here with us today, we have Miss James. How are you today, Miss James?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This is my true confession. Being on a podcast is definitely one of my bucket list items. So we're checking that off today.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that I get to have the experience. Miss James, we here absolutely love icebreaker questions. So in honor of May the 4th, which is landing on today, the day of the filming, we're going to be asking you a question about Star Wars. And have you seen the movies?
So another true confession. We're really just going to let it all out here. I've seen a few, but this is but I have to say, I just never could get into them, but I know some of the main characters, and I know the basic storyline, and I don't say that I dislike it. I just have never gotten into it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But from what you have seen, do you have a character that you'd like to be?
I would say I'm relating most to R2-D2. I think that it's pretty amazing to be a robot. If I had to pick a character, that would probably be what I would be. And he's also a little bit sassy, which I appreciate as well. He's got a really good sense of humor. So I would say if I had to pick a character, that would be my guy.
Yes, I like that. What do you do as your job? Just explain. I don't think.
Yeah. So my official job title is a lot fancier, I think, than sometimes what it seems. So my job title is Learning Technology Integrator. I was in the classroom prior to this. I'm a classroom teacher. I taught 6th grade science for 12 years before I jumped into this job. And this is my second year as an LTI. And I work with Walton Middle School, obviously, and then also Burley Middle School. And then there's a program called Post High that helps students that are above 18 that have graduated from high school, but still have some special needs and maybe IEPs. And so they can be a part of that school from 18 to 22. So that's another school that I help with. And my job consists of a lot of different things. I work with students, helping them with technology things. I actually last year worked with Miss Profit during WIN, and we offered some different coding activities and different things that students could do with technology. I sometimes will work with teachers. So I've worked a lot with Miss Peart. I've worked a lot with Miss Fennell, Mr. Groff, and their students on various projects. Sometimes it's, building websites or making videos or coding activities. So it just sort of depends. And then I also do some tier 1 sort of basic tech support. So I can help with sort of, if your computer is just kind of acting a little funky or funny. And obviously my job changed pretty drastically from March of 2020 until now as well. So now I do a lot of tech support. I work, I'll join in on people's Zooms. If something's not working, they'll shoot me an email and say hey, can you come help me or help the student and help problem solve? And I still get to work on some projects and some things, but obviously it has a little bit of a different lens in terms of the technology world since everything happened in March.
Yes. Oh, wow. That is a lot that you do. And it's crazy that you get to, actually work with technology and work with all these different schools and then also be in the classroom. So that's super cool.
It's a nice blend of both worlds. I definitely have had a lot of fun doing it.
Yes, it sounds very fun. So you mentioned that you have had a big jump from March 2020 to now. And I assume that for a little time there you had to work virtually. So how did you do that?
So, basically the same way that you guys interact with teachers, I do a lot of things through Zoom. So we also use a couple of other platforms kind of on our end of things when I'm working with other LTIs, but we do a lot of video conferencing. Sometimes it's through Zoom, sometimes it's through another platform called Microsoft Teams. And basically just kind of troubleshooting. And it's a lot of just sharing screens and, seeing what students or teachers are doing, and then kind of troubleshooting from there. So it's definitely it's definitely different, and it's definitely a lot more tech troubleshooting now than obviously what it was, prior to schools closing down physically.
Yeah. Are you still teaching virtually, or have you gone back into buildings?
So I am doing most of my work still virtually. I do get to kind of trickle back in every once in a while. And so I generally try to spend a couple days a week either at Walton or Burley. It's just a little bit tricky just because a lot of the spaces are being used by people. And so it's not really that I have like a designated office space where I can go. And because I do spend a lot of time on meetings on Zoom, it's not like I used to hang out in the library. That was kind of my spot at both of my schools, and would just kind of hang out there, and teachers would drop by and we would visit and figure out what's going on, or I would go into the classrooms, but that can be a little bit tricky as well too. So mostly virtually, still getting the pleasure of trickling in to some of the schools and doing some live stuff as well.
Yeah, that's good. A little bit of sociality, but yeah, like from the time I went into Walton, it was a lot like a class was in the library and all like the little like breakout spaces, whatever they're called, were all like used as classrooms, and I thought that was really neat. And
yeah, definitely a big shift for sure. I'm definitely looking forward to having a little bit more normalcy back in and being able to see people and work with students in the classroom for sure.
Yes. What you mentioned that you were a sixth grade science teacher, I think. And did you have any other roles in the teaching before you came to be an LTI?
So it was mostly sixth grade science. I taught a little bit of sixth grade history and a little bit of seventh grade history and seventh grade science the first couple of years, and then kind of fell into the sixth grade science role at Jewett. And then as I started teaching more and more. I'm going to get my cane out. When I first started teaching, you had to reserve computer labs if you wanted your students to work with the computer. So we had a couple of laptop carts, but the laptops were not super reliable. They didn't hold a charge, and you would sometimes have it reserved and you'd go to pick it up in the class before you had used it. So they really didn't have a charge, or there would be computers missing, or, just all sorts of things. And so we also had the laptop or the, computer labs available where they had classrooms where, physical computers were set up. And then obviously, as time went on, we had access to more and more computers. So probably the last 5 years or so of teaching at Jewett, we had access to more of the one-to-one things. And I just always really enjoyed finding ways to bring technology into the classroom and use that with students. And I also really found a lot of joy in sharing that knowledge with my other coworkers and other teachers as well. And so in this position, came up, I thought, this is a nice blend of both worlds. I still will be able to work with students. And, I sometimes to other teachers kind of describe myself as sort of like the fun aunt, where you get to like come in and you get to bring some like cool technology. We have like the VR kits that we get to work with, that normally when students see that I'm going to be working with them, they get excited, like, oh, she's going to be teaching us something new, or she has something to fun to work with us. So you get the best of both worlds of getting to be able to share the knowledge that you have with teachers, but you also get an opportunity to work with students. And in fact, in order to be in this position in Albemarle County, you have to be a licensed teacher. So it's not just someone who's like, oh, I really enjoy technology, I'm going to go and do this for a school. You have to have classroom teaching experience first, and then you can go and become a learning technology integrator.
Hey Wildcats, I hope you enjoyed that half of Cracking Miss James's Locker Code. Tune in next week for part 2 of this Locker Talk. See you guys then.